WORBLA. It's plastic that you can heat up, and when it cools down it'll harden into the shape that you want. I've got this old guitar pedal and it came to me with no battery cover. I'm wondering if you can make a battery cover with this stuff. I'm going to try repairing these excellent AKG headphones. Hopefully the rigidness of the WORBLA will be enough to make these headphones fit on reasonably comfortably. And this one is going to be a real challenge. Check out the break on the corner of this laptop. How are we going to do this with WORBLA? So, journey of discovery. Will it work? Let's find out. Apparently WORBLA is pretty magical. It's usually used to make props such as armor and other small items for films or plays, but I've never heard of anybody using it to make replacement parts. Apparently you need a heat gun to get it nice and soft. I don't know if it can be done in an oven, but I don't see why not. But basically if you get it to the right shape and allow it to cool, it should stay in that shape. So let's measure up 54 millimeters by 41 millimeters. And of course we have to measure this distance here and this distance here so that we can leave a little extra to slot into the spaces that hold the battery door in place. So here's our 54. Apparently WORBLA does not change size when it's heated or when it shrinks, so we can measure up exact. Cuts pretty easily with scissors. Yep, looks like we're the right width. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit here and just line up my WORBLA with the recesses that are required here and just use my knife to mark those positions. One, just to speed up the progress of this video, and two, because I'm a little bit lazy and near enough is good enough. I don't want to overcut here, so I'm just going to finish the last little bit off with a knife, just to make that come off neatly without making the cut go too far. Certainly don't cut like that towards your fingers. I find a good way is to brace things with your thumb and cut in like this, because you get a lot of control over how far the knife goes and you won't overshoot it and cut yourself. Okay, so we've got a good fit, but you have to consider that it needs to fold down and go underneath, so really that lip's not going to be long enough. I'm going to go further in. Oh, that cut was just about perfect. Of course, this is all very estimated. You might want to measure perfectly to get a better outcome. But really what we're doing here is just finding out if WORBLA is the right substance for the job. Of course, the other way of making battery covers is to measure them up and use a 3D printer. And I anticipate that that would give you a better result. But this is a quick result. Okay. Now let's see exactly where these little extensions need to be. This is going to be quite tricky because there's not really anything to lean the WORBLA on, so I'm just going to do the best I can to make a noticeable mark with the tip of my knife as my daughter sings crazily in the background. Use the knife to get a nice neat corner. I wonder what she's singing there. Send me a message if you can identify that tune. This one's tricky. We've got to do an interior cut here. And again, you'd probably measure this up if you were doing it really seriously to get things exact. But this pedal doesn't have significant value to me, and really we're just testing out the WORBLA to see how good it is. Alright, well that worked really well. Now let's see how we're progressing. Okay, so we've got a nice neat fit, and all the little tongues seem to be in the right place. Getting close to the moment of truth now, folks, but we have to look first at how deep these little extra bits have to go to get down. I don't know if you can see that, but it's about 5 millimeters down, and then we're going back into the machine. And then the rest of that flap can just sit in there and hold the thing in place. And because we're going to be making some very detailed and quite angular edges, I've got a nice neat little pair of jeweler's screwdrivers here, so when it's warm and flexible I'm just going to grab that and make my angles. Anyway, totally inexperienced here, let's give it a try. Okay, it's quite a lot more flexible now. Really noticeably leathery sort of feel. Now if this is the outside, what I'm going to need is one hard angle there, another hard angle there, and I'm going to need a tiny little catch here to go into that slot. It's nearly completely hard again. Not that it's ever completely hard. Warbler itself is actually like normal thick plastic, I suppose. At this size though, it feels quite a lot more rigid. Now you can see I've done a pretty messy job there, but essentially the shape is right and it feels strong. So that's going to slide into the front bit of the pedal, and those are for the back. I know it's very rough, but let's give it a try. Okay, well that'll certainly keep the battery in and stop it moving around. And of course I can go back and reheat that and fine tune it, sand it down, maybe press something flat over it to make it a perfectly flat surface. But for doing what this pedal needs to do, that's completely adequate. It all depends how far you want to take it and how perfect you want that to be. But here it is, ready to go. So this is what we've got left, a reasonably large piece of Warbler. I'm going to try repairing these excellent AKG headphones. They're all snapped along here, as you can see. I've tried to repair them once or twice with duct tape and that's been a bit of a disaster. It's got no rigidity to it at all and new breaks have appeared. So what I'm going to do this time is use more duct tape just to hold everything in position. And like I said, that won't make anything rigid, but I'm hoping that the Warbler will. If I cut that to the right shape to go around here and fold around it, hopefully the rigidness of the Warbler will be enough to make these headphones fit on reasonably comfortably. This is very fiddly and it's not coming out particularly tidy, but remember, it's all going to be covered up by this black plastic, so it's going to look pretty rotten anyway, but it'll look better than this and it'll hold its shape a bit better too. Okay, done. I decided to really go to town with the tape because this is the last time these headphones are going to tolerate being fixed, I think. So I guess we need to get an idea of what sort of length we're going to need, because we've got to go from here to about here. Looks like we'll need about 13 centimeters. To wrap around the headphones, that is just over 3 centimeters wide. And what I envisage doing is, when it's warm, sliding it through here and wrapping one over the top and wrapping the other one over the top with a little bit extra to stick back in underneath again, so it's at least a little bit tidy. And here's our piece. Yep, I think that's going to slide through pretty well. Fold over once, fold over again, and once more a little bit underneath. Perfect in theory, let's give it a go. I want to go very flexible this time, so I'm giving it plenty of heat. It's going to be quite hard to squeeze it through there. Alright, I have to work quickly. Oh, it's going a bit weird. It's actually slightly stretchy at this heat. Okay, let's do our first fold. Squeeze it so it's nice and compact. Folding again. And there's our little bit extra that we can just wrap underneath, just so it looks a little more tidy. I might even snip some off here because there's a bit too much on that side. Okay, now I'm going to give it a really good squeeze. It's definitely not too hot to handle, even though it's very flexible. So while we're waiting for that to completely solidify, I'll just say again, the plan was to fix up those brakes so the tape's holding that together, and the Warbler is just there to provide that arced rigidity so that the headphones will sit the way that they're meant to. Okay, all done. Now I know this looks terrible, but it really is amazingly hard. Let's road test them. Oh yeah. So that worked out pretty much exactly as I'd hoped. For the cost of $17 worth of Warbler, we've effectively fixed a $120 pair of headphones. Third and final experiment, and this one is going to be a real challenge, but check out the brake on the corner of this laptop here. I think it's very unlikely we're going to get much of a good result, but we can make it look better than this. We can at least get it roadworthy again. As luck would have it, one of our offcuts is just the right width to wrap around there. Almost exactly the right color too. Maybe we'll just try to mold it as best we can with our fingertips. And it's already looking like a reasonably good fit. You can see a bit of that damage underneath, but at least it's not sharp now. Alright, so that part already fit pretty well. I wouldn't mind taking a little bit off there. Aha. Okay, so let's see how it wraps around to the other side. Now it's quite rigid. Still feels the same temperature. I'll tell you what, just for the sake of getting it fitted, we'll just use some blue tack just to get it positioned. Take off these messy bits and see if we can reheat it. Yeah, looks like it's going pretty floppy. Oh yeah. Still slightly warm to the touch. I'm going to give it heaps of time to cool down because I think the stiller it stays, the better it holds that position. And once I'm quite sure that it's rigid, then I'll pull it off and trim these edges back and perhaps find a more permanent way to fix it on. Whoa. Okay, the second time around, when you heat this stuff up, it goes very rigid. A little bit more sticky too, it seems. There we go. It's handy that the way it's molded itself kind of gives you hints about where the contours and lines are that need to be cut. I recommend doing this with a smaller pair of scissors too if you ever end up with a similar task. Okay, so I'm not a master craftsman, I'll admit that, but sometimes all you want to do is get a device presentable and safe, and I think we've managed to do that in this situation. Okay, so I've tidied it up as best I can. Let's try that lid once more. Alright, WORBLA is good stuff.